So what's going on, everybody? So after taking a lot of the suggestions and some tips from the org website, everyone's telling me that I should remove the intake manifold and the valve cover gasket so I can go ahead and take a direct look at the cam gears, because I might need to slide those out and put those back in line. So I'm going to start with the front, and already loosened these up a little bit. Okay, hopefully the lighting conditions are good enough for you guys to see. The hood might cast a little shadow because where the sun's at right now. I've never taken this off before, so I'm taking this off to see if there's any bolts that are behind this cover that are going to be necessary to remove. And yes, there are. What I like to do is I like to be as organized as I can. So as soon as I take off my bolts, if they're not going to hinder me from taking off what I need to take off, I put the bolts back inside. That way I don't lose them. These are the coil packs right here. Coil packs are going to come off first. Now make sure you unplug them before you lift them up. Okay. And always remember, as a safety precaution, always unplug the battery whenever you're going to do any type of mechanical work. That's the coil pack. Okay. Okay. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go around here. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bolts. Probably 12 bolts that I have to remove to lift off the valve cover. There's also a hose back here, and it looks like that hose is going to have to come off too. So this is my first time removing the valve cover on this car. So what you normally want to do is you want to come around, and before you remove anything in any car, make sure there's no connections to it or harnesses or anything that is plugged in that you might rip when you're uninstalling something, okay? And that's just a rule of thumb for anything you do when you're working on a car. Look around the part before you start to take it off. Sometimes there'll be a connector that you didn't see behind it or around it, and you'll end up ripping the connector, and you might end up having to buy something new that ends up costing $100 just because you weren't careful. Okay. These are actually neither 12s, they are 10s. So I'm going to show you the bolts. I'm going to take you off here the tripod. It's going to be a little hard to show, but I don't know if the camera can pick that up. But this bolt here, bolt here, what? A bolt here, a bolt here, a bolt here on top. Okay, there's going to be 10 bolts total, and you're going to turn those to your left, and that'll be the way to remove the valve cover gasket. So okay, so looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bolts is what holds down the front valve cover. Okay, only 9 bolts. I thought I was going to have to pull these out here on the side because it looked like it was attached, but it isn't. It's actually attached to the, looks like the timing cover. So there's a hose over here in the back that I'm going to disconnect. You want to disconnect this hose here. Okay, you can disconnect it from here, or you can disconnect it from there to get it off. And then there's going to be a hose back here that's right under the fuel rail. Okay, so you're going to want to disconnect the hose right under the fuel rail. Okay, careful when moving the fuel rail. You don't want to crack it or do anything like that, okay? The fuel rail is what sends fuel to the engine, okay? So the hose is right underneath the fuel rail. And that's what you'll disconnect there, and you'll be able to remove the valve cover. Okay, so now to take off the first hose that I was talking about, so you can remove the valve cover. Okay, one, and I'm going to take off the second hose. It's going to be hard to give you guys an angle here to see this. It's probably going to be impossible. Maybe if I come from the rear. The hose right here. This guy right here that's under the fuel rail. So right before you remove the valve cover, guys, okay, make sure you remove these right here. Okay, this is what sends signal to the coil packs. They're held on by clips. I don't see why they would have them so tight. So now I got a better angle. Okay, and you might want to do what I did with a little more care instead of doing what I did, kind of yanking them out of there. You might want to do it with a little more care. So now we got the valve cover almost off, okay? And before you remove it, make sure you unplug the wires that were here, okay? That plug into the coil packs. This is what the coil pack looks like, okay? And if you're wondering what wires I'm talking about, these set of wires right here, okay? They're held on by the pins. These wires right here, okay? They ran right across, if you saw earlier here, and they plugged into the coil packs. Remove those, okay? You can replace the plastic pins later, no big deal. Probably don't want to yank them out like I did. So we're almost here. I can actually see the camshaft and the cam gears, okay? And I can see the tensioners from here. So what I want to do now that I have the angle that I want to remove that final hose that I had issue with before. Okay, so I finally removed that back hose, and something that just caught my eye is that when I was removing it, it actually broke and became very brittle. Okay, and that was the back hose that was connected back here on this pipe right here, the valve. So looks like it's never been changed. Same hose. It just broke off. It started breaking up into pieces. So that hose I'm going to have to replace. So now we're looking at the cam gears. This is your valve cover.